Welcome to the Armchair Trader podcast, and today we're talking about battery materials. It's a subject we know a lot of our readers are very interested in, and stocks in this space they're receiving particular attention from investors as well. So today we thought we would get another specialist in the space on the podcast, and we have Metal Corp all the way from Canada to talk to us. And CEO Maciej Jastrzebski is here to discuss developments at the company in Canada. So welcome to the podcast, Maciej.
Excellent, thanks. It's great to be here.
We've done quite a bit of writing about battery materials technology on the website. So some of our readers will be familiar with it to a degree. But can you just give us some more detail on the technology you have?
We started the company in 2018 to address an emerging trend in the electrification space, and that's the emergence and eventual adoption of next generation batteries. And so next generation batteries I'm kind of using as an umbrella term for all of the successor technologies to the lithium ion battery, whether that's solid state or lithium sulfur or lithium metal type batteries. And so our focus is really on the anodes that enable those cheaper, cleaner, and ultimately better performing batteries for next generation EVs. We have two technology areas that we're working in. One is the production of metallic lithium from lithium carbonate salts. That's a completely new process. It eliminates the emission of toxic chlorine gas as a byproduct of lithium metal production, which is a problem with the incumbent technologies. And so we produce that lithium metal. And then the second part of the technology, or the second technology we have, is a physical vapor deposition process and products around transforming the lithium metal into anodes that actually become a component in the battery. So you can think of us as being between the chemical producers and the battery manufacturer. We're really sort of an upstream portion of the supply chain.
Yeah, as you say, battery manufacturers will be buying from you directly. Can you say the sort of companies you might be dealing with?
Sure. I mean, I have to tread a bit carefully just because we're very careful about protecting our customers. We do have an announced relationship with Blue Solutions, which is one of the pioneering all solid state lithium metal battery producers. But you can imagine, we've got in excess of 10 sort of active programs with different battery manufacturing or battery development companies.
Can you shed some more light on your deal with Blue Solutions? Because I know that's been something that's been quite important for the company.
Yeah, so it was a major milestone for us in 2022. That conversation started actually quite a long time ago, close to the founding of the company. But basically, as I said, Blue Solutions is one of the pioneers of all solid state lithium metal batteries. They've been sort of quietly working in the background for decades. They've been producing EV qualified batteries for the better part of a decade. The batteries have been in cars, they've been in buses, they've been in grid scale energy storage. So really a pioneer in the area. Lots of experience with metallic lithium. And so what we're partnering with them on is developing an ultra-thin lithium metal anode for their more passenger EV focused battery technology that they're developing. And what's great about this agreement is we were very thoughtful about it, the two companies. And so there's quite a clear roadmap from the development and how we would go about commercializing it, specifically within there's incentives for the companies to work together to commercialize that technology together. But of course, we're working with other companies. As I said, we haven't announced anything, and that's why I have to be a little bit careful about it. But we're working very actively with a number of other groups on similar goals.
In terms of the technology, is it something, I probably get asked about this all the time by investors, but is it something that you're able to protect with patents?
Yeah, so especially on the metal side, I would say we have a very strong IP position because it's a new process, new equipment. We do a lot of our own custom designed equipment. So there, I believe we're going to have a very, very strong patent portfolio. On the PVD side, it's more focused towards specific aspects of the process. It's more focused on specific aspects of products. And again, this sort of comes down to one of the virtues of using PVD as a platform. PVD, physical vapor deposition, it's a ubiquitous technology. It's been around for 70 years, 80 years actually. Basically, almost anything that looks metallic but is made out of plastic, there's a good chance that it's been made using a PVD process, whether that's the reflective part of your car's light or chip bag or a crisp bag, where it's a plastic film that's been metallized. So the technology's been around for a long time. Adapting it to the production of lithium metal based anodes at high throughput with high quality is a challenge, and there's specific things that are protectable around that, and there's specific products made using that process that are possible by using that process that are protectable. But the fundamental technology is sort of exists in the world as a concept.
Gotcha. Can you say anything about revenues in terms of the way you see the company making money going forwards?
Sure. So it's pretty clear. We're fairly vocal about intending to produce lithium metal as a operating producing company. We want to be a major producer of metallic lithium. That's a pretty clear business model. There's some benefits of scale you get there, and we're moving as quickly as possible to commercialize that technology because that's a healthy market with healthy demand for metal, especially in North America where there's limited production capacity. Um, on the anode side, it's quite interesting because we have a lot of ongoing conversations with different battery companies, and it's quite clear the industry is still trying to work out exactly what model it wants to pursue, and so whether that's direct sales of an anode product or a more sort of integrated production of anode. Those are all different models that we have sort of in active conversations. So we're prepared for that. We have models, both kind of more vertically integrated and sort of more direct merchant type models that we have developed internally and that we're discussing with different groups. But it is quite interesting. Lithium's it's very clear. It's a specialty commodity product, and then on the anode, it really depends on what the strategy of the battery company is that they're trying to pursue.
And we've been reading ourselves in the news. There's been a lot of talk in Washington, D.C., from the Department of Energy, Department of Defense, Congress, bills going through Congress about energy security. And it does seem that the US government itself has woken up to the fact that there needs to be more support for companies in the next generation energy, next generation battery space. I know you guys are in Canada as well, but Canada is actually being considered now by the Americans as a friendly jurisdiction. You've got the added advantage of the proximity of Canada to the US. Can you say how that plays into your hands at all? I know, and also how much political support you've been getting in terms of financing or schemes that are available for the development of this technology.
Sure. So I think broadly speaking, if we sort of take a step back, we see that basically any automotive producing manufacturing type region, there's been this reckoning that if you want to continue to maintain that industry, you need to develop a battery supply chain and a battery value chain within the jurisdiction or close proximity there too. And so I think we're seeing that as a global trend, both in Europe and in Canada and in the US, of increasing government policy intended to encourage the development of that supply chain within at least the region. I think for us, the great benefit is it just supercharges the industry. It means that there's going to be more battery plants built in the region. There's going to be more EV manufacturing capacity, and that really plays well into our hand because we're sort of one step removed. We're not trying to pick a particular winner, a particular company to conquer the world. We're an upstream player, so we have a kind of technology agnostic product we can feed into those markets. So I think those are tremendous. Sort of macro drivers or macro tailwinds for a company like us, like ours, working in this space. More specifically, Canada's been pretty active in the area. We've been able to secure some funding from the government in support of that collaboration with Blue Solutions. It's about a $2 million grant from the Next Generation Manufacturing Canada. There's other grants that are becoming available that are becoming, either their mandates are expanding or the total funds that are available are expanding. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to leverage that. We're actively chasing a number of those types of opportunities, and we'll continue to do so. So I think there's both kind of indirect support and direct support.
And presumably in the future, further support coming down the pipeline.
One hopes. I mean, I think it's going to be a fierce competition to get these industries built out in the auto manufacturing heartlands of the world.
And in terms of, I know you can't name any names, but in terms of the actual the sectors, the companies that you are likely to be selling to, are we talking the electric vehicle space, or are we talking people building the batteries for other electric vehicle manufacturers, or are we talking potentially other sectors entirely as well?
It's a really good point, because I think the big driver is going to be the EV market. And as I said, there's sort of different models that different companies are pursuing. We have had a lot of engagement with the next generation battery developers. It's part of our strategy to get our materials into their hands, really help enable their development work, help enable their product qualification work to the greatest extent possible. So we've been really focused to date on those relationships with the battery developers, but we're certainly broadening that. One of the reasons we've brought Kunal Falfer, who recently joined the company, on board is really to cast the broader net, to really develop the relationships with sort of the customer once removed directly with the auto industry and so forth. But if we kind of take a step back, what do next generation batteries really allow you to do? One is they allow you to have vehicles with longer range, potentially lower cost batteries. That's one part. But the other piece is the ability to store more energy in a smaller package and a lighter package starts to open up other niches. For instance, electric air mobility. You start to be able to think about short, medium haul air travel. You start to look at maybe taking some of the coastal shipping in. You're starting to think more about perhaps electrified trains on non-electrified networks. So it really starts to again sort of expand the total scope of the industry, which is very exciting. Those are not the major things people are necessarily thinking about right now, but they're just natural applications for next generation battery technology.
From your perspective, the sky's the limit, really, because a lot of industries are using fossil fuel burning engines at the moment, and a lot of them are going to be moving over to some kind of a clean technology, battery orientated business. So aviation, coastal shipping, I mean, all of this stuff could actually end up being end customers for yourselves.
Yeah, and it's it's the battery technologies that are enabled by low cost, large volume production of high energy density anode materials that really expand that envelope and start to bring these other use cases, these what we might consider edge use cases, but actually ones that really represent still a massive battery demand into the fold of what's possible with electric vehicles.
Can you shed some light on the product qualification process that you have to go through? I know that's something that's quite involved, and it's obviously something that you'll be having to do a lot of going forward.
Yeah, so we have, I think, a pretty robust strategy around that. And that is really to get our products into, you can kind of think of us as a tier two supplier to the auto industry. We're once removed from being a direct supplier. So our strategy from the beginning and the way we've set the company up is to be able to produce reasonable volumes of material to feed it to the battery developers and to have our product go through and be qualified with their products. The process is not trivial. There's sort of a four-step process. It takes a number of years to go through that, where you sort of start with almost like conceptual level products, ones that function like have most of the functionality, but aren't made with the same processes as you would use in a manufacturing environment. And then sort of the fidelity of those manufacturing processes and the scale of the production goes up as you go through the various sample A, B, C, and D product qualification stages. So our goal is really to get our material into the cells as they pass through that material freeze milestone that happens sort of in the sample B part of the qualification sequence. So that's really, that's where we're focused. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to leverage others' qualification efforts to qualify our products.
Gotcha. And do you think that that's something? I know you've just mentioned how long it can take. Do you think that that's something that might speed up as people become, both yourselves and potential customers, become more familiar with the process?
I think there's great impetus to get it done. There's a bit of an arms race between the different automotive companies to get a differentiated product on the road. I think the industry is going as fast as it can to try to get these materials in. But it is an undertaking. You're changing significant aspects of the technology, so it's a road that must be traveled. It will take a few years. But the key thing to understand is it's the companies that have the capability to produce material today that are feeding into that process. And so once a product is qualified, anybody else coming into the market is looking at a 2-3+ year process to get their material qualified in a way into a vehicle. So for us, having taken the time to put ourselves in this position is I think a great advantage, and I think it's perhaps underappreciated.
The lithium price is something that we've been following on our website, and we've been talking a lot about it on this podcast with other people. We've seen price of lithium really skyrocketing, obviously because not enough producers. There's massive demand from the battery space. Is that something that creates problems, and how are you able to mitigate that?
In a way, it does. I mean, it creates problems for the whole industry. I think if you look at the cost of production of lithium, it's actually pretty low compared to the selling price. So I think whenever you have that situation, it's typically driven by insufficient supply side. For us, one of the big advantages of our process and of our products is that we can go ultra thin on the lithium, which means we really can thrift on the lithium inventory that we need to put in a cell. If you look at conventional foil rolling, which is how a lot of metallic lithium anodes are made today, you're very hard pressed to go much thinner than 30, 40 microns. We can go down to 5. So when you think about that, quintupling of the price of lithium over the last 18 months, the ability to cut out that much material is a huge advantage.
It's obvious that demand for your product is going to be picking up pretty sharply. What plans do you have in place for scaling up your own production, and how realistic is that?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going as fast as we can on the metal production side because that's a market we can target, today. So we have a pretty active piloting program. We're doing the commercial scale plant engineering and sort of parallel with that process. The idea is basically to be able to launch as soon as those are completed. In terms of the scale up of production, I mean, one of the things that we're really trying to do is develop close partnerships with all of our customers. Again, recognizing that the sooner we get them, using the product at scale as they go through the product qualification process, the easier it will be for us to then either build out the capacity or justify building out our own capacity, or building that capacity with them in a more vertically integrated fashion. So I think the key here is you need to be part of the process in order to be eventually a producer of these materials, and that's why we're so focused on those partnerships.
Do you envisage that you might need to take on more investment or raise more finance in order to facilitate future expansion?
Yeah, so definitely to build a commercial plant, to build commercial scale capacity, we're going to need to raise additional funds. We're in Toronto, so we're surrounded by mining people, and so when people think about a commercial scale plant or a commercial facility, they're thinking billions of dollars because that's sort of very typical for mining projects. But the lithium metal industry is not a big industry. It's a sort of low single digit thousands of tons per year of metal that's produced. And so, if you can build out 500 tons, 1,000 tons of capacity, you're taking a significant share of the market. But that's still not a massive capital commitment. It's sort of on the order of tens to very low hundreds of millions of dollars to build that scale of capacity. So we'll definitely need to raise additional funds to build out that commercial operation, but it's not an enormous investment like you would have for a mining project.
And I'm not asking this question specifically in relation to your own company, but more from the sector as a whole. Do you think that there's going to be more participation from an investment point of view from, say, the electric vehicle and battery manufacturers buying into smaller companies like yourselves in order to just secure that vital supply for themselves?
I mean, my perspective on this is that one, we've seen already quite a active desire to vertically integrate. When the supply chain is stressed, people want to control it. That's a reasonable position to take. So I think we will see that, and I think we will see continued. We've already seen lots of investment in the space. In the let's say battery companies, the maturing startups. We've seen tons of investment from the automakers to secure those technologies and to foster those technologies. I would tend to argue that that trend is likely to continue further upstream. If you look at Tesla, they're sort of going all the way vertical, and I'm not sure that that's not the right model. So I'm sure certain automakers will make that decision.
Oh, finally, I know there's not much you can probably say at the moment, but I just wanted to see if you can shed any light on future plans for the company next year.
The road is fairly clear. We've got continued development and maturation of both of the technologies, whether that's through engineering for commercial operations or some of the piloting work that we're doing. We're going to see continued sample material production, continued deepening of relationships with our customers. We're aiming to have some announceable partnerships with some of those groups. So it's I think it's going to be very exciting. We've got a lot of things going on. We've built great infrastructure. We have a pilot anode production line in Rochester, New York. We have a pilot metal production line that's going through the piloting process in Markham, just north of Toronto. We have a really great team. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things in 2023 that we can look forward to.
Fantastic. Well, we'll be keeping tabs on progress with the company and with the sector as a whole, because we think it's definitely an exciting place for investors to be at the moment.
It's a super dynamic industry, and tons of growth and tons of exciting developments coming up. So it's a wild ride, but it's not every day that a new industry comes into existence.
No, indeed, and good opportunity to get in and at the early stage of the growth. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the podcast this morning, your time, this afternoon, our time.
No, thank you. It was a good conversation. Much appreciated.
You've been listening to the Armchair Trader podcast. Make sure you visit our website, www.thearmchairtrader.com, for your daily dose of financial markets news and sign up to our free newsletter there.